Welcome to our presentation about Karl Marx.
Hi, I'm a garbage man,
And I'm a doctor.
and we could live roughly the same lifestyle. Or at least that's what Karl Marx believed to be a perfect society.
Now expanding on Karl Marx, he was born in 1818 in Trerier, Prussia. He was discriminated because of his Jewish heritage. So moving back, a year before Marx was born, his parents converted to Christianity. However, society still thought of him as Jewish, and this led to a lot of inequality in his life, and thus he questioned the role of religion. He moved to Paris, the epicenter of socialist ideology, with his wife, and together with Frederick Engels, he made the Communist Manifesto. So the overall view of Marxist ideology is the physiocratic idea that there is only one factor of production that creates value. Capital and landowners do not add much value in his ideology, and hence capital and land must be owned by the people, for the people, and for example owned by the government. So wealth is shared equally, and any form of profit or rent will inevitably lead to class war. And yeah.
Now, let's dive more deeply into how these class wars actually happen and the reason why they happen. And for that, I'm going to introduce you the law of motion of a capitalist society. As my dear friend Ishan just told you, we start with the labor theory of value. That is, the only thing that brings actual value to the table is the time of labor, meaning how much time you are actually putting into labor. That's the only determinant of the value. Moving on, we go to the theory of exploitation, which introduces the term of a reserve army of unemployment, which actually means that if there is a big chunk of people who cannot find work, meaning there is involuntary unemployment, the elasticity of labor supply would decrease, people would be forced to accept lower wages, and thus inequality would be even greater. Moving on to capital accumulation, which talks about how the big business tycoons and business owners, capital owners, landowners don't use the profits they generate in order to help their workers, but they use the profits in order to make even more and more and more profits, which again is harmful for the average people. Okay, now we're gonna go into three different terms, meaning which are the falling rate of profit, the technological unemployment, which these two refer virtually to the same thing, and to business crisis. Now, falling rate of profit and technological unemployment in a nutshell refer to the fact that as long as technology grows, machinery will take human jobs, and thus the elasticity of labor supply decreases even further. Okay, now everyone I think knows what business crises are. You can think of 2008, 1992, 1929, where factories were closed, prices would fall, unemployment would rise, inflation would rise even more, and depression would kick in. Again, inequality grows even further. Now, from the falling rate of profit and business crisis, we go to centralization of capital and concentration of wealth, which I think speaks for itself, right? If there is a big chunk of, if there is a big part of wealth concentrated into to a small part of the population, this does not sound really ethical and equitable, and people would start being angry and start striking, because that's what the workers do the best, right? So we have class conflict. On the other hand, business crisis and technological unemployment would lead to a reserve army of the unemployed, which I already explained what it is, and emissarization of the proletariat. Again, right, if there is a big business crisis, inflation skyrockets, people can't afford anything, they cannot even find good paying jobs, they get angry and they again strike. Class conflict.
So moving on to this societal situation. The Industrial Revolution centralized production and widened wealth gaps. Workers faced poor wages and harsh conditions, while capitalists grew richer. Marx saw this inequality as a systemic flaw in capitalism, predicting workers-led revolution as a result, which is exactly what my friend here moved on to. There would be a rise in inequality, unemployment, and poverty. Okay, so the intellectual situation of the time. Classical economists such as Adam Smith and David Ricardo both highlighted labor as central to creating value, but also supported the idea of capitalism, and that is where the distinctions made between these two people. So Hegelian philosophy, inspired by Marx, dialectual materialism, viewing history as series of class struggles. And moving on to rejection of laissez-faire ideas by Marx, he challenged free market ideologies, emphasizing systemic exploitation. So the development of Marxist ideas. Marx believed conditions derive societal change. Capitalism contradicts this, like wealth concentration and workers' poverty, would spark to revolution, leading to socialism and eventually classless and communist society. This is a good part to talk about conflict theory. Revolution is inevitable due to the contradictions between forces and relations of production. So going back to the idea of my friend over here being a garbage man and me being a doctor, both of us earning the same wage, that's, in his idea, better than in capitalism mind, where maybe I earn more and he earns less, and he will think, oh, no, we should be earning the same amounts because we value labor the same.
Of course. Now, let's see how these Marx ideas actually thrived into society, into the real life world. The first country who adopted this kind of ideas was Russia. In 1917, I think, the Bolshevik Revolution broke into Russia. Mm-hmm. And then in 1929, China became communist again, then the Eastern European bloc after the Second World War, and then the Southern Eastern Asian countries. Mm-hmm. But now, if you think about it, all these countries have a common denominator, which is how communism actually came into power, and that is by force. They had to forcefully impose this regime on the people. And funny thing, anyone who would say things opposing it or being against it or saying anything that mildly would be against it would suffer repercussions. And you think, is it such a good, are these such good ideas if you actually have to oppress your people that are not happy with it? Anyway, of course, there are countries who took these ideas in a lighter way, such as China, which imposed such things like lighter communism, allowing for some market economy as well. And we see that China has been doing quite very well recently in the recent decades. Their GDP per capita skyrocketed compared to the, 50s, 40s. So I think the best solution is somewhere in between.
So that is something we will leave to you guys to think about.
Yep.
And see, is communism good, bad, or is a mix better? So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed our presentation.
Thank you very much.